Ready?
It's going.
Okay, good morning. This is your Posey in service on your new bed alarms and your new chair alarms. The new sensor itself is called the Posey Sitter Elite. You will be finding these at the head of every bed in the facility, and this bracket will be mounted on the wall. These monitors slide on and off the bracket very easily. You just lift them up and slide them up to get them off of the wall. So when you go into a room to set up a patient, you should always see the Posey Elite onto the bracket, the black power cord, which is plugged into the wall. It should be plugged into the wall at all times so the nurse doesn't have to worry about having to plug it in. However, there is a little green light. I don't know if you can see it right here, but a little green light that lets you know that the power cord is plugged in, just in case you can't see where the power is plugged in. The other plug is the nurse call system. It plugs in right below the black power cord. So you plug one end in here and the other end into the nurse call system on the wall. Now, both of these ends are interchangeable, so it doesn't matter which end goes into which socket. So that is what you will see. If you don't have these elements, you need to go find the elements to finish your setup. Okay, the next step in setup is to go grab your monitors, your sensors. This, as I said, is the bed sensor. This is the chair sensor. So when you're ready to set it up, you take the sensor, the alarm off the wall, and the sensor plugs in right below these other two, and it says sensor. So this is like a telephone plug-in, so it's got this little plastic clip, so you want to hear it click in place, and you want to give it a gentle tug to make sure it's not a broken connection. When you have that done, you're ready to set the monitor up. Now, one point I want to make is when you turn it on, it's on the back, you always want to have the sensor plugged in, because if you don't have a sensor plugged in when you turn it on, it's going to start alarming. That is a patient safety feature, so that a patient can't figure out that we'll just unplug this and then I don't have to worry about the sensor. Okay, so once again you plug it in, and then at that point you put pressure on the sensor so that you can turn it on the back. It's an on-off switch. Now, to set the rest of the settings, which are under this flap on the other side of the sensor, you have to put pressure on the sensor to be able to change any of those settings. If you try and change them without pressure on the sensor, it doesn't work. That is another patient safety aspect, so that the patient will not get out of bed and try and alter the settings. Okay, so the settings include voice and tone, tone, and voice only. Now you will see that there is a bracket under the voice, and that means that that one will only work if the nurse call light is plugged in. Okay, but we highly recommend that you use the voice and tone. The reason being is that when you are able to record a message for the patient, which I will show you in just a few moments, you say the patient's name first. That engages the patient, and more times than not, the patient is going to stop what they're doing and listen when someone calls their name. Not guaranteed, but that's a higher possibility. So this one actually gives you more time once the alarm is going off to get to the patient to potentially prevent a fall. So what you are going to hear is when I let go of the sensor, it's going to be a message, then it's going to be the tone, which is the default tone that the facility would like to standardize across the facility. So when you're floating from ward to ward, you will know what that sound is. And then you also want to have it on the high volume. So if you don't hear those three things, you need to do some adjustments. So I'm going to let it go, and you can hear an example of what you should hear.
Mrs. Jones, this is your nurse. Please sit down and call for help. I'm on the way.
That is the default tone. Now, if you're not hearing that loud volume, you need to open this little door here. And sorry, I have to hold pressure on it to do one hand. Okay. So what you would do is you would go in here. If it's not on the correct mode, which is this selection, you would hit it until that green light moves to the appropriate window. The window with the voice and tone is the one on the far side here. Now, if it's not the correct tone, you're going to want to hit that tone, and I will scroll through them until you hear the correct one. That last one was the correct tone. Now, if the volume is not on the high volume, you simply hit it. There's 3 levels until you get to the correct one. Now, if everything you heard was correct, you don't need to worry about resetting those 3. But you do need to check the delay because it's 0, 1, or 2. You never want it on 1 or 2. You always want it on 0 because you don't want a delay before the alarm starts sounding. Then the bottom one is the record function. That is the function that allows you to record a personalized message for your patient. It's very easy to do and only takes a second. So how you do it is you hold down the button till it beeps. Then you speak while you're holding the button down, and then you let go. And I will demonstrate. Hold the button down. Mrs. Jones, this is your nurse. Please sit down and call for help. I am on the way. And then you let go. Now you have that message. So we'll let go of the sensor.
Mrs. Jones, this is your nurse. Please sit down and call for help. I am on the way.
And then the tone. So at that point, you have the sensor all set up and it's ready to go. So literally, if you listen to it, everything's set the right. All you have to do once again is check the delay and record a new message. Now, anytime you record a message, it erases the previous message, so you don't have to worry about how to get that done. Okay, so then you put the flat back. I'm going to pause this on hold for just a second so I can put this back together.